friends, welcome back to this behind the scenes. Do you like seeing different parts of my house? I'm always just trying to find the light that works. This week on the pod, in the behind the scenes here in this Patreon exclusive, we have emotional eating coach and best-selling author Alegra Loewenstein. Alegra is the author of this amazing journal. She has another one too, but this is the one that we are chatting about because it comes out right now. I purchased it. It's pretty awesome, super beautiful. This episode is for you if you've been looking for a sacred ritual that doesn't require a coach, that doesn't require any books or videos. It's just you getting in touch with the greatest guru that you will ever have, this thing in here. And Alegra really speaks to the power of journaling. And so how many of us have gotten a journal and then we open a page and it's just blank and we're like, but now what do I do? What the heck am I supposed to write about? So we talk about how powerful journal prompts can be. She gives us a really powerful journal prompt within, and then since you guys have the extra behind the scenes, you also get this amazing explanation of how we can use goddess archetypes to help us with our hormones. Super special, so in depth. I was like, wow, that was a freaking bonus right there. I met Alegra at the incubator that I did here in San Diego. I actually didn't meet her during it. She saw me at pitch night, and if you heard my pitch night story, I wasn't my best self there. I have never been so terrified to speak. I really felt like the room, they weren't my people, and maybe that was a judgment that I was making. It obviously was because Allegra was in the audience, but I was not the Tori that you are used to when I spoke. I was terrified. I couldn't even access any of my words. I couldn't remember anything that was on my piece of paper. I just froze. I had full hives. It was horrible, but apparently I said something that made Alegra reach out to me, and it was an honor to have her on the podcast. So I hope you enjoy. Reminder that our next training is on June 21st. It is a Thursday. I think it's next Thursday. If you can make it, that would be awesome. There will be somebody who's in the hot seat and we will coach them through real life specifics so everybody understands what this is in context. It's one thing to be talking about these principles in like this vague esoteric way. It's another to reframe them in person, in real life situations. That's how we learn. So I inspire you to show up. Again, if nobody shows up, then I'm not going to just talk to myself. So I love you. I'll see you out there and enjoy the interview. Hey friends, today on the pod we have Alegra. Alegra, what's up? Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yay. So everybody heard your professional bio in the intro, but in your own words, who are you?
This is the hardest question for me. I'm a speaker, an author, and a coach, and I really am passionate about honestly helping people be happier and healthier, and I do that by helping them figure out where things are misaligned with what they're doing in their day-to-day and where they want to be, whether it's a goal or a value. And I also really like to help women get off of the emotional eating roller coaster, which is at the root of a lot of other issues like the yo-yo dieting and just generally feeling kind of crappy.
Yeah, absolutely. And your mama?
Oh yeah, I have two boys. They're 4 and 6. They're wild men, and I have a husband. He can be kind of a wild man too.
Amazing. Okay, so before we get into the emotional eating and this amazing new project that you have coming out soon, we're just going to do a quick fire so people understand who you are, where you're from, all those details. So just answer them briefly, but where do you live right now?
I live in San Diego.
Me too. Amazing. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Texas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then I went to college in Austin and had an awesome time living there.
And how come you don't have an accent?
People ask me that. I have a California accent, actually. And Californians like to think they don't have an accent, but when you're not from California, you can hear it. My parents are from California, so I think that is a big part of it, that I didn't have it strong growing up. And then we did live in the city, and the accents just aren't as strong there. And I spent one semester in on the coast of Texas in a really small town. The town was as big as my high school growing up. And I would go back to Austin to visit friends, and I would totally have an accent. I would hear myself having an accent. But I was 4 months, so I guess it didn't get that deeply ingrained.
Got it. Okay, when you were a little girl, what did you think you wanted to be when you grew up?
An inventor, I'm pretty sure, was on the list for a while, and I would make crazy pair of glasses that had a yo-yo come out the side, so you had to yo-yo with your head.
Was that for like a neck exercise?
I think it was just pure entertainment.
Amazing. Okay, awesome. So if you went to school, what did you go to school for?
Yeah, I have a couple of degrees. I have a Bachelor of Science in Ecology and Conservation Biology, so I'm a pretty big environmentalist. And a lot of those classes were outside, which is why I enjoyed that degree. And then I have a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing with an emphasis on poetry.
Wow.
And they really came together. I worked in science education for a long time, and so they did actually come together. I even would write sort of bad poems because I wrote a lot of curriculum for a while, and so they did work together. And I feel they really come together in the coaching and obviously writing world now too.
Absolutely. I love asking people what they went to school for, if any, right? Because it's the paradigm shifting. Not everybody needs to go to school and get a bunch of degrees.
Yeah.
But I love hearing what degrees people got and kind of the lily pads that led them to where they are now. So how did you leave the ecology universe and start coaching and writing?
Well, I'm trying to backtrack through that a long time ago. I thought that I really loved science, but I really more loved nature. And I do love science, but I'm more science light. I didn't really want to be in a lab, and the career choices they were just going so much into the lab world. Even ecology and conservation biology are really genetics based now, and I didn't particularly care about genetics, so I just didn't really want to go that route. And then the jobs for true ecology are kind of few and far between, and I love the outdoors, but like not that much where you go and live in the outdoors for 6 months straight. Or, there's a lot of fishery ecology where you go and live on a boat for 6 months, and that just wasn't calling to me.
Got it.
And I knew I love education, I love studying, and so I wanted to keep going, and I kind of fancied myself a poet, and so I applied and got in. I went to San Diego State for my master's, and they have a quite good creative writing program. But I found out doing that I like poetry, but I don't actually love poetry. And in the meantime, I'd just always been either volunteering for free or having jobs through school in science education. And so it was just a natural fit to go into that. And I did a lot of different things in that. Like I said, I wrote curriculum. I did really almost special event planning at UC San Diego, but for students coming up doing science-focused kind of tours and events. So we were part of the San Diego Science Festival when it was just first getting started. So really fun. It's make science come alive. We would send scientists into high school classrooms and bring high school students to campus. It was really fun. I really loved doing that. And then I had my first son, and I went back to that part-time, which was actually great. And then it was all grant funded, and then the grant it came to its natural expected end. People are always like, did you get fired because you had a kid? And it wasn't like that at all. The director he was European, and he was really supportive of families and stuff, but the grant money was just drying up. And so many people got laid off, and then I had always thought, I'd heard of health coach and I didn't even know what it was, and I just thought I would be so good at that. And that was years before. I just knew it. And so it was kind of my opportunity where when I got laid off, I said, this is my chance. And I did my certification, and then I had my second son. So it was really slow in the beginning. And then after my second son was close to 2 years old, I really started going out into the world, and, and I love to make content. So I'm always making opt-ins and handouts and things to share with people and information. So that's kind of the pathway, the leapfrogging. I like that word.
Amazing. And then you have a best-selling journal, Emotional Eating Detox, a 21-day inspirational journal to understanding your cravings and overeating and find freedom from dieting forever.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So I love this. It came out of work with clients.
Mhm.
Really one client who loved the journaling in particular, but I do give journaling to a lot of my clients to just, so it's a good way to process. And I actually ran this as a freebie and had people super excited for 7 days, and then they all dropped off the face of the earth and never came back. But I knew I was onto something, and so but it was actually the moment where I feel that things kind of clicked for me, because I thought, oh, I could put this into a book format, which was kind of smack my head moment because I have a degree in writing.
Mhm.
And so the writing of it was the easiest part. And I did self-publish, so the rest of it was sort of, I have other books that I've written that were really big and long, and in my brain, they're too big of an obstacle to take charge of myself. And this one felt really manageable because it is a smaller book, which is great, because who needs a big, thick 500-page book? We don't. We just want to jump in and start figuring out what is going on and why it's so hard to make change. And so that's what it does. There's a short context introduction, and then it's just jump right into the actual process and start figuring it out.
And
And
what
then
is that process?
well, so for this one, it's journaling, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can process through. You can talk to people, you can hire a coach or a support person. You can make what I kind of break it down into the logistical side, which to me includes the food. And then there's everything else, right? So it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's environmental, which includes stress and work and family, and it's literally all the other things. And that is actually, to me, the real secret, which is what drives people into the yo-yo experience, right? Because we can take 6 weeks and do Whole30 or be on keto or whatever it is that you want to try, but we're typically relying on willpower.
Mhm.
Willpower is finite. And
Mhm.
we use it up dealing with our boss and our kids and our spouse and traffic and whatever else we have, all the things that we deal with, and then it's gone. And then we're stressed from trying to rely on it and all the other things that used it up. And we're hungry because typically people are over restricting. And also, this is a biorhythm thing. When it's like a circadian rhythm, when the sun goes down, our inhibitions go away. So then we're also totally uninhibited. And so people tend to go through the day and succeed, and then the night comes and then they fail, and then they beat themselves up and think that have a moral failing. And it's like, it has nothing to do with all that stuff. It's because we didn't figure out all the things that put us in that spot, which is
Mhm.
the real work. And so through the journal, you can you can figure out a lot of that stuff by just asking yourself questions and letting the thoughts flow, right? You don't have to, there's no right answer. It's just journaling. You just 5 minutes, you fill up the page. And as you do that over and over, you're figuring out, I consider it to unraveling a thread, right? Here's the thing, you want to lose weight or you want to do whatever that you want to do, and then you pulling the thread, and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm actually really sad about my dog that died a year ago, or like this thing at work is really bothering you, and you keep doing that, and then you fix the real source, and then the other goal becomes really easy, right? I have a client who, she's like, oh, I'm just losing weight now, I'm not even trying to, because she had a really toxic family relationship that she had never really dealt with before. So she didn't come to me to deal with this family member, but that's what she did, because we realized that was really, she was always in reaction to this person. This person was totally toxic. And she was always in reaction. She's like, all I do now is I kind of just check in on what I'm eating every once in a while.
Wow.
It's really simple.
It is. Yes. Simple, but not easy. We talk
Yeah.
about the ecosystem, the holistic ecosystem on this podcast a lot, how, like you say, our disconnects in our ecosystem it's because they're all interconnected and they're all affecting one another. We've never been taught to look at from the aerial view and acknowledge all of them. So this woman, or I'm sure so many people doing the journal, they're like, holy smokes, didn't even understand that those things connected. And that awareness alone is incredibly empowering, incredibly enlightening. And like you said, it allows us to detangle the thread, detangle the necklace to get the desired result that we want.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's also a really freeing feeling because people have so much, we're so hard on ourselves, and I am totally the same, maybe not with food, but I do it with other stuff. It's just, we're trained, and I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's just in our human nature or if it's in our society or what, but everyone is so hard on themselves. And so I actually have a quiz on my website that is, find out who to blame. And so you do the quiz and then you get the results, and it's like, is it society? Was it junior high? Was it hormones, right? Because when we can pull that thread and see it from a new perspective, we can be really so much more gentle and kind to ourselves. We kind of get rid of that, just that judgment of ourselves, because we thought it was willpower. It has nothing to do with willpower. Like, throw the willpower out the window. That's not the issue.
Right.
And then when we get a new perspective and we realize, like, oh, it's actually this other thing, we can really actually get rid of judging ourselves for not having willpower.
Absolutely. Right. So what do you find are some of the biggest common themes that you see with your emotional eating clients?
There are a couple. And so stress is really, really common. And people often, well, it kind of goes either way. There's the camp that tries to tell me that they're not stressed because they don't feel frazzled in the moment. And then they're telling me, well, I'm not stressed, I'm just busy all the time. Well, that's stress. I'm glad that you're managing it, but it's still stress. And then there's the people who know that they're stressed, but they don't see the connection to eating. They don't see that it is affecting what they're doing with their day-to-day. And it's not just food, right? It's really, I love the holistic ecosystem idea, because it's so many other things too. It's just exercise and moving our body. And then because we're coming from this place of stress and overcommitment, one, we can free ourselves from recognizing that stress is the most common trend that I see. And we can take a new approach, right? We can stop trying to take that I have to get an A+ in everything I do approach. And which is why people are like, well, now I'm going to start exercising 5 days a week for an hour. And I always tell people, no, don't set that as a goal. Because if you set that as your goal and then you fail, you're going to feel worse and you're going to judge yourself more. So I try to say, look, why don't we just set your alarm for 15 minutes earlier? And I mean, it's all really personal. So you can hear in people's voice, I can hear when they're telling me, I'm going to do this or this or this. And I can tell it when they're really going to do it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't sound like they're really going to do it, I keep pushing them to come up with new ideas. So whether it's just go for a walk with a friend or walk in the mornings before, but it's something really simple so that they can get on the right path and get aligned. So to go back to your question about the trends, yeah, so stress. And then because we're in that kind of stressed out mindset, we tend to set unrealistic goals that keep us trapped in the cycle. So one part of the trend leads to another part of the trend. And then also with the unrealistic goals is kind of the third pattern that I see. It's what I call upside down eating, which is either they're restricting because they're trying to diet, or because they're stressed and busy, they're just not eating enough all day long. And so by the end of the day, they're super hungry. And I mean, I'm aware of this pattern, and it happens to me once in a while too, right? You just get busy. But when it's happening every day, that's when you have to start pushing, those calories up into earlier in the day, and you end up feeling better and not being so hangry, right? We don't want to get hangry.
Right.
And that happens when we've gone all day and like all we've had is a cup of coffee and a granola bar. It's like, well, yeah, you're going to be hangry at 6:00 at night. Of course.
Yeah. It's not, and it keeps coming back to this idea of willpower, where we're trying to be this perfectionist that relies completely on willpower, and that validates our worth in this big way. And you're saying, no, let's continue to pull it away from willpower. Let's separate the metrics of success away from your worth. So what do you feel like is the potency of putting thoughts to paper? Like, what is that process? Why do you think it's so effective?
Well, I am probably biased because I am a lifelong journaler.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen it in my own life. And I've always appreciated the value that it brought. It's a time for reflection. It's a time to slow down. It's a mindfulness practice that doesn't feel as hard or intimidating or, quite frankly, boring as regular meditation, or annoying, right? Like, we can have all these judgments with meditation, and it is basically a meditation process. It's just a different type of, or mindfulness practice. So it's a different type of mindfulness. So it's just a chance to connect, to ask ourselves how we're feeling. And when I started, I really kept my journals almost as more record keeping, but also brainstorming. And I always did creative writing. So I did a lot of different things. But a couple of years ago, or maybe a year and a half, I had a coach who really changed my perspective and started having me do what I call mindset journaling. And so instead of just being in the moment and processing, or looking backwards and processing, we're actually looking forwards, and we're processing almost from the future, right? We're processing from where we want to be. And then it's a really, really powerful way to integrate where we want to go,
right,
into our thoughts now.
Right.
And so I do have a really, I include affirmations in a lot of in both of these journals. I think they have affirmations, and, but I coach the affirmations in a specific way so that they're really the most potent, right? Because if we just start writing, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire and lose all this weight, it's not going to work because it's kind of too far, and our brain's just going to block it out. But when we focus on the next step where we want to be, that puts us in line with whatever that other goal is, or another way is, why do we want those things? And then what's the feeling that's coming from it? And then we do the affirmation through how we actually want to be feeling. So there's different ways to do it, but it's getting it close to where you are, but one step in the right direction. And for me, the affirmations are so powerful because I write my affirmations every day. And then by doing it in my moment of calm when I'm journaling, which I either do in the morning, right when I wake up, or in the evening, right before I go to sleep, or both. But by doing that over and over, those thoughts come to me in moments of stress, right? So we can tell ourselves, well, I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to stay calm, instead of being stressed out. But you have to practice it when you're not stressed. Right. So one for me, which has been amazing, especially with my kids, because I get so stressed out. My kids are young and they just want to play with Legos, and they don't want to get dressed and put their shoes on and go out the door. And so that's a disconnect too, right? We have different goals for the next 15 minutes. And I get really stressed when we have to get out the door in a certain time and they're not cooperating. So one of the things I started writing was, I slow down to make more time. And that thought now comes to me, because what happens is, if I get stressed and I'm suddenly like, no, we got to hurry, we got to do it, and I start rushing, it actually makes it all worse, because then they either see that they've got me under their thumb or whatever, they're probably being entertained, or they're just blocking me out because I'm spazzing. And so to me, I just write that every day, sometimes twice a day. I slow down to make more time. And now in that moment when I'm getting stressed about getting out the door, I even sometimes it'll just be me, if I'm got a deadline or whatever, and I'm starting to get frazzled, I slow down to make more time. It actually works, right? You slow down and then you're not freaking out. So you can actually focus, and you're not going to make mistakes. You're not going to trigger your kids or whatever the situation is. But it reminds me, why am I doing this? Is because I actually want to reach that goal of that timeline in a more effective way. But I would never have thought that if I didn't practice writing it over and over when I was calm. And now when I'm triggered, it comes into my brain and I'm like, okay, connect with my kids, you know, bring
Right.
them their shoes. I don't have to send them, right? Like I can take a step towards them, meet them in the middle. Or if it's just me working, it's like, okay, I have 30 minutes. What can I get done towards this goal that's realistic? So it just, it calms you down, right? It puts you into that state of actually being effective.
Yeah, you built the musculature in the
Yeah.
space where you actually had space. You built the musculature so you can lean on it as a structural beam in the moments of chaos. I love that you brought up time too. That's something we've been talking about a lot on the podcast too. Have you read Gay Hendricks' The Big Leap?
I have heard of it. I have not read that one yet.
That's a good one. So just quickly, there's he speaks about Newtonian time and Einsteinian time. Newtonian time says time just as we are victim to time. Einsteinian time is saying, no, I create time. Like a hand on the stove, 1 minute of it could feel like 3 hours. And when you're in a state of flow, 3 hours of that could feel like 5 minutes. So this idea that we get to morph and stretch time, which totally aligns with your affirmation. When we are present and we are completely in it, we're fully intimate with the moment, 2 feet in the present, we start to get to stretch time and make it morph to us instead of being victim to the clock.
Yeah, it works. One of my very best friends who's super spiritual and deep into a lot of spiritual practices, she actually was the one who told me that ages ago. I didn't really need it until I had kids.
Yeah. I love it. So your next journal that is coming out so soon is about, let me get the title here, Body Wisdom Journal, 40 Days to Heal and Listen to Your Body's Intuition, which I love. And you specifically work with professional, busy people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So again, like the journaling is building the musculature, asking ourselves, because our wisdom, exactly what you're introducing people to, that has all the answers. We're just not listening.
Absolutely.
What inspired you to write this journal?
I think this one honestly is proof of the saying that you teach what you need to learn.
Got it.
And relearn in my case.
Remember.
Which some of my other writing, which I wrote when I was in my 20s, and you know, I was kind of tuned into it then before my life had just all the grown up responsibilities. Adulting kind of disconnected me from some of the things that I used to be really tuned into. And so for me, it's been rediscovering a lot of what I know, but like I said, I get so busy that I don't listen. Right. So I have a couple of other projects that are coming out of the same vein of just connecting into your body for the answers. And so I wanted to take some of that. Those are bigger projects that are down the pipeline a ways, but I wanted to just take some of that. That's that, again, like the other journal, it's just that pithy, condensed, let's just jump into this and actually start doing it and not have to tell ourselves, oh, I have to wait, or I have to do it this complicated way, or it doesn't have to be some giant thing. We can have the guide, have the body wisdom journal, and just start asking our bodies what's going on. And that's really where this came out of. And it was so powerful for me to write it down, because it's stuff that I know and I used to do, and I've been quote unquote too busy. And so of course in writing it, I'm like, well, that's a really good idea. I should do that. And so some of it is just processing to what role that our body plays in our life, right? And I really, this one ended up kind of surprising me. I mean, the journey of writing is, of course, sometimes the writing takes over. And I mean, like fiction writers always say, well, I didn't make up this character. This character had its own idea of, of what was going to happen in the story. And it's same even in nonfiction. So I really ended up also talking a lot about our self-esteem and our body esteem, which to me, I thought I was kind of immune from, but it's such an epic problem in our society. And to me, it was really having kids and getting close to 40, which I'm actually excited to turn 40. And at the same time, our culture is so body obsessed, so thin obsessed, and so youth obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a really bitter pill to swallow if you don't have one or all of those features. So to me, it became really poignant in my life as I had kids. I felt like I left the maiden phase, and I'm a mother, and that's not really honored that deeply in our culture. And so I that ended up just coming in on its own. And so some of it is building that up through thinking about how powerful our bodies are and how we should honor them. And then some of it is also tapping into that intuition and asking our bodies, like, hey, tell me what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Body, tell me. And just letting it come, right? And so the journaling is such a powerful way to do that, right? Because it can feel awkward and weird to do new things like this. But when it's guided and in a process, and I consider, so in coaching, I try to make all of the phone calls and videos a safe space, right, between me and my client, and the journal does that as well, right? We have this package, this, I have to say, quite beautiful package. The cover is gorgeous. I have an amazing graphic designer, and this is a safe space, right? It's many times even safer than hiring someone to support you, because there's no person, it's just you and your body. And so having a guide to put you through that without even having to interact with the guide can be a really amazing first step, right? And so if someone just says to you, people say it all the time, well, listen to your body. Well, that's great, but how?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? And we don't always know. So this is the guide. This is how you listen to your body.
Beautiful. Can you bring us through one of your most potent prompts?
Yeah, so I wanted to share, it's actually day 1. And so within the book, I also include healing rituals. So there's on the first day, and then every 10 days, there's a healing ritual. And oh, by the way, you don't have to do any of these in the number of days that it says. Awesome if you want to get an A+ and do that, and awesome too if you just want to be like, whatever, I'm just going to do this once in a while. So that's fine. So after 10 prompts, I should say, then there's a ritual. So I would love to share this first one because it does go really deep into creating your affirmations. So this will be really useful whether or not anybody wants to buy the journal. It gets them started on that affirmation. So I'll just read it, and it's a kind of a 2-step process, but we'll just go through it, and people can kind of finish up the secondary part later. So day 1, healing ritual. Today, you begin a journey of healing. You might complete it in 40 days, or you might take breaks and detours and do it in bits and pieces. However you do it is fine. Take a deep breath right now. I'll do it too. Let go of any expectations you have. Let go of any shoulds or must-dos. Let this process unfold in a loving, healing, and gentle way. Let's start this journey by setting your intention for the journal. Spend 5 minutes and write down all the things you want to gain from this journal. Write down all the things you want to feel about and in your body. Write down all the things you want to think to yourself when you look in the mirror. Don't doubt or second guess yourself. Just write all the dreams and hopes you have for this process. So then there's blank space for that. And it's kind of brainstorming mode at that point. So then on the next page, now go back through and circle and put stars and exclamation points. Mark it up, get in touch with the ones that feel really important. If they trigger doubt, fear, or an inner eye roll, put them in parentheses or add a question mark, but don't scratch them out. We are staying open to possibilities. Finally, pick one. If one feels too hard, pick 2 or 3 to start with, knowing that you will feel them out and eventually choose one. This is your intention for the journal, or just your life. Write this into an affirmation that starts with I or similar and is in the present tense. Use this space to refine it. So then there's more blank space, and there's some examples, because what I mean when I say I or similar, I am proud of who I am. My soul shines every day, right? So that would be similar to I. I am healthy. I love to smile. I am awesome. I love my life. I am safe. So those are just some examples, and they can cover the breadth of any topic, any aspect of your life. And so eventually the end, pick one you are really excited about, because I want you to write the same affirmation every day for the next 40 days. If you prefer to vary it slightly, that is fine too, but stick with the intention and focus on bringing it to life in every aspect of your life.
Wow, that's so potent and high value. And that's just day one, friends. I hope that everybody wrote that down and went through that exercise. Because even that alone, Allegra, if somebody went through day one, picked an affirmation and was really honest about what they want to create, and they just wrote the affirmation once a day for 40 days, that would create some immense shifts. I can't even, so much could happen if the journal is that potent every single day.
Your life will change if you do that.
Yeah.
I can attest to it. When I started doing mindset journaling, it wasn't quite the same as that, but it literally changed my life in a matter of weeks. My attitude was so much better. I felt so much more abundant. And then so that was a year and a half ago, and about 6 months ago or so, I went to a conference, and they challenged us to do the 40 days with your affirmations. And that was 6 months ago. And I think I've missed like 2 or 3 days since then.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Everyone listening, I hope you did that first prompt. And then I hope you go get the journal so you can continue all of the 40 prompts. I'm definitely getting the journal. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm excited too.
Allegra, so you have a bonus for our Patreon people that you would like to chat about.
Yes, I would. Let me pull those notes up.
Oh my goodness. My Alexa thinks I said Allegra.
Oh.
Alexa, off.
That's so funny. Yeah, so the last thing I wanted to throw out there, and I'll try not to take 6 hours, which I easily could, is the idea of tapping into and channeling our own inner goddess. So you can use this with any goddess that you're familiar with. Right now, I'm using the Greek goddesses just because I have more familiarity with them, but I am also looking into other cultural stories to expand my my breadth of that. And basically the idea when I talk about channeling your inner goddess, what does that mean? When we talk about the goddesses, it's really, and the gods too, of course, is they're these archetypal energies, these archetypal powers, right? We can read the stories and we feel connected to them, and they can be powerful and transformative for our life. And I like to use them to think about hormones in our body. So I pick a goddess based on the goddess story that I think is relevant to hormones in our body, what our hormones are doing for us in our body, and how they get imbalanced and how we can bring them back into balance. So in light of the common theme of stress being a big part of what makes change and success challenging, I wanted to talk about the goddess Athena. So most of us know her as the goddess of war, which is partly why I selected her to represent the hormones of stress, right? So adrenaline and cortisol, because it's basically when we're stressed, we're essentially in battle mode. We don't have to hunt woolly mammoths anymore or get chased by saber-toothed cats, but those hormones really come from that, part of evolution, part of our history. And they're good, right? They're really good. We're faster when these hormones are pumping through our body. In certain ways, we're smarter. We make decisions faster. We can kind of jump into things more quickly. We're stronger. We have all these amazing effects. And it also shuts down our ability to reason and think through things. And so it makes making rational decisions about our food really challenging, especially when you look at now our modern world. It's not the Great Plains where we're out hunting and gathering, but it's fast food on every corner, junky treats in the office, well-meaning family who's sending you more junky treats. Like all these foods are out there. And then the stress hormones also make us crave sugar, fat, and salt. Not only crave them, but literally unable to resist them, right? So this is why I talk about hormones, because our hormones actually make our decisions. We think we make our decisions, but our hormones actually make our decisions. They hijack our body, they hijack our brain. When they're out of balance, they're hijacking. When they're in balance, they're helping us. So Athena is a goddess of war, and she really can help us when we're in battle, but even the goddess gets tired, right? If you're fighting a war, you actually don't want to be in battle. Battle is last resort. So what are the other skills that Athena brings us? She's also the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of strategy, because strategy is actually a huge part of winning a war. And, not to say that we're like at war with our lives, but it's just really about the idea of the battle, that we want to use these other skills to stay out of battle, to stay out of that stress and chaos that happens when this hormone surges. And it surges nowadays, not because we're running from wild animals, but because we're in traffic, or we have a deadline at work, or our kids won't put on their shoes and we have to get out the door in 15 minutes, whatever it is, these we feel like we're in battle. We feel stress. These hormones take over, they hijack us. They cause all other hormones to get out of balance. So to channel our inner Athena, we actually need to tap into these other skill sets. So the wisdom and the strategy. And the good news is that within all of these goddesses, they also, of course, have masculine and feminine aspects. So yes, they're a goddess. So we kind of think of them as feminine, but they also have masculine and feminine. Well, our world really values the masculine traits. It's, we live in a masculine world. It's fast paced. It's go get 'em. It's kind of fierce, kind of competitive. That has its downsides. We need to cultivate our feminine side. And it also is good because it means that we have a lot of the skills of Athena that will help us prevent falling into the battle mode and feeling stressed out and chaotic, which is planning, right? So cultivating that feminine side, the journal does that. These other techniques do that, but that takes time to build up those. So we almost have to rely on the masculine side in the short term, even though ultimately we have to get out of masculine mode, but we can still rely on it in the short term to help us bring things into balance. So I call them, it's planning, it's pre-decisions. It is, if you meal prep or meal plan, you are actually using the Athena skills of wisdom and strategy to make sure that when you get into that stressful battle mode, you have healthy things on hand that you can just grab and eat and cook preply. I don't know what I'm saying. Cook quickly, I think is what I was trying to say. And the same thing too with even just researching, hey, I know I'm going to have to get takeout, once or twice a week. It's just the reality. So not trying to change your reality, but saying, well, let me just spend 20 minutes on Sunday and look up, like, what are some healthier choices that I can do that are near my work or near my house? So it's taking that, again, it's always taking in the moment of calm to make a plan for the moment of chaos. And Athena is really, really good at that because she is the goddess of war and strategy. You don't want to go to battle. You lose your warriors. You get exhausted. You get drained. And so by staying out of that mode, by planning and looking ahead, that's actually, which is a skill we tend to really value. So we often tend to have it. It's actually really easy. It becomes much easier to stay out of that stressed out mode.
Oh, goodness. That was amazing. I love relating the hormones to the goddesses because in the nutrition realm, when we start just using the names of hormones, like things get really confusing and hairy and we just kind of disconnect and our eyes glaze over and we're like, yeah. When we attach them to a goddess, we all understand these archetypes because we've all felt them as some part of our being. That's really brilliant. What a wonderful concept. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I can't take full credit. I was reading a book called Persephone Rising, and it's all about the Persephone Demeter story.
Mhm.
It's very thick and slow, but it's amazing. And she makes a one-line reference to somebody else who did this.
Mhm.
And I didn't read that other book. I just thought, I'm obsessed with this idea, and I just started doing it for myself.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. Okay. Allegra, before you go, we have something called the Jar of Lols. It's like LOL, Jar of Lols. And these are all prompts from previous guests that they've put in. I already took out some of the most ridiculous ones because I'm like too embarrassed to read them. But let's see. Sometimes you just get off lucky and there's like, they're not even that bad. Let's see. Okay. And before you go, you got to add one to here.
Is this like truth or dare?
No, it's not. I mean, some are really ridiculous, but some aren't that bad. Some are just interesting. So the first one that you got is something popular now that in 5 years is going to just be ridiculous.
Keto.
Keto. Okay, I hope so. I really hope so. Okay, good one. I like that. Okay, next we've got.
I'd say gluten-free, but I think it's already lasted more than 5 years.
I know. I know. Okay, what's one of the most useless skills you have?
Oh. Useless. Only useful ones are coming into my mind.
You are a very systematic, logical person. I feel like you wouldn't have a useless. Yours would all be very.
There's got to be some. I'm just not thinking of them. I definitely have some. I mean, if they're useless, you're not using them, right? So they're probably hard to think of. I don't know. Can I just tell you a weird fact about me instead?
Perfect. Yes.
I collect sun visors.
Why?
I wear them too.
Oh,
I don't just hang them up. I wear them. So I buy them when I go places because you can buy a sun visor almost anywhere. And then I wear them, but I actually wear them.
But you prefer that than a full head cover?
Yeah, I don't know why. And I used to make fun of frat boys because they all would wear these like dirty sweat stained sun visors. And I would be like, frat boys are always wearing sun visors and studying business, right? Like that's my thing that I made fun of them for. And now I'm like, man, they were onto something. I love sun visors and I should have studied business.
Now that I'm in California, I'm extra paranoid about my skin. So I actually wear like one of those big grandma hats. Like I always wear it to the beach, but now I'm even been wearing them on a walk around the block when I bring the dog to the dog park. Not sure I'm making many friends, but my skin is happy.
I did work to protect my skin, and I don't know, it's the sounds. Things sound different when that hat goes over, and it disorients me or something. So I'll wear it if I'm out all day and I know I'm in a really sunny spot. But day to day, when I'm just in and out, and I love it because in my sunglasses, when I go inside, they just tuck right in. They're really useful.
What's your coolest visor that you got?
Well, right now I'm wearing one from the San Diego Zoo, and I love it because it doesn't actually
from the San Diego Zoo.
It was the 100-year anniversary where they just have the rainbow lion on the front. It's super. I love it. It's so subtle, right? Sometimes you don't need to be like San Diego Zoo.
Yeah, right.
Just have the lion, and it looks cool, and it says zoo on the back real small.
Love it. That's hilarious. Because my hat's from the zoo, the San Diego Zoo. It also does not say San Diego Zoo, but we've just basically funded the San Diego Zoo for a day because those hats are so freaking expensive.
Exactly.
Okay, you have to add one prompt to the jar. What you got? What are you curious to know about other people?
What is the weird food that you obsessively eat?
Perfect. Sometimes I write these and I can't read what my handwriting was. Okay. The weird food that you obsessively eat. Awesome. All right, Alegra. So your next journal is out already, or it's coming out in the next days?
It is coming out on June 12th. So
June 12th.
By the time everyone is listening to this,
yes, it'll have just come out.
I can say my journal just came out.
Hell yes. Okay. And where can you find this journal? Yeah,
so I even have a free audiobook for it. It's allegralowenstein.com/body-wisdom.
Body-wisdom.
This is how you spell. There's a secret E that LOE.
Ooh, okay. We will link all of these things.
WENSTEIN.
Perfect. We'll link it. Okay. And that's the free audiobook of the journal.
Yeah. Yeah. So it goes.
Order the paperback journal on Amazon.
Yeah, then if you get the free audio, then there's the next link on that page is to Amazon. Yeah. And the audio covers, it's actually, I mean, even if you want the journal because it is beautiful, it does go through all of the intro pages, right? So it's, how many pages? 22 pages of intro, and we're all busy, right? So, that's not what, this one's the one, 22 pages. So you don't even have to read those 22 pages. You can listen to it on audio and then just jump right into that process.
Amazing. Yes, there's something so important and special about putting pen to paper. So highly recommend everyone do the audiobook and the journal. Okay, Allegra, we will add all of your links, dates, all the important stuff in the bio of this episode. And we just encourage everybody to go out and get themselves a journal.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming to hang out.